Okay, we're going to start with candidate day. We're going to start with our 9th U.S. Congressional District candidates, and we have Mr. Mike Scupin on the line. Mr. Scupin, are you with us?
I am. Thank you, BKP.
How you doing this morning, sir?
Oh, if I got any better, I'd have to be twins.
Okay, well, well, what we're doing this morning, it's your 15 minutes, and I do want to say this at the start of the day. I did not know Mr. Scupin before the campaign started. I've gotten to know Mr. Scupin over the last couple months, and I've enjoyed meeting you and your wife, and hope to see you guys a lot more. And I don't want to say that's with most of the candidates. When you go out and go to these places, you enjoy spending time with these candidates. Mr. Scupin, the question that you've been asked for 2 months, but today we want to give you an opportunity to ask for people's votes. What are the reasons why people should choose Mike Scupin over the other 4 candidates in the race tomorrow?
Well, I think the biggest thing that sets me apart from the others that are running is, this is something that became very dear to my heart back in 2009 when I began to get involved through the Tea Party. And I haven't just stepped up and decided I wanted to run for Congress. I've been trying to make changes both here in the state of Georgia, locally, as well as nationally since 2009. And I've tried to do it in a lot of different ways, fighting bad bills down at the State House and trying to get good bills passed. And one of the things that I think I have really learned from my experiences down at the House is there's a thing with people. They tend to think that because they elect a representative to go down to the state of Georgia legislature, that these guys know all there is to know about everything. And the one thing that I have learned is that typically I'm finding that very often, excuse me, that a state representative really knows less than a lot of us out here that are really investigating the issues. They know what the lobbyists are telling them, but they rarely know the truth. And most of the time I'm seeing them make votes that are based on really what I think is false information. And I know we have the same thing going on in Congress. And that's one of the reasons that I want to go up there is I want to listen to the people of the 9th District. I've been doing that now since 2009. I've been working with people all across the 9th District to try to make changes. And that's what I want to continue to do. I made a pledge that when I announced that I was going to run, to weigh my votes very carefully against the Constitution and to look very carefully, even if an idea is constitutional, we need to know whether or not there's a real need for this idea. And so often we see things being passed in Congress that first are not constitutional, and secondly, we don't even need them. One vote, for instance, that Doug Collins made back in June the 10th of 2015 was when he voted to do away with country of origin labeling on beef, chicken, and pork. Now, when you first hear that, you think, well, that's kind of innocuous, doesn't have much meaning to it. But think about when you combine that with some of the trade agreements that we're getting, and look what could happen, say, to the poultry and beef industry in North Georgia. Now that we don't have any country of labeling origin to let us know where things are coming from, I see no reason for these large conglomerates to begin to grow their chickens and their beef in Mexico and move their processing plants down there and then ship all this stuff back. I really believe that this vote that Doug Collins made is going to absolutely eventually devastate the poultry industry in Hall County and in the 9th District. And I'm very, very concerned about that. I know Thomas Massey was really upset with this bill, primarily because it was coming really out of the World Trade Organization and some threats that they were making. And Congress, instead of standing up to these political powers that are outside our nation and representing the people, they just folded over.
So you think this is going to be detrimental to the poultry industry in North Georgia? Because I do understand Gainesville, but I mean, I'm talking to you probably a half mile from a processing plant here, and know a pretty good list of poultry farmers out 52 going towards Dawson and all over the North Georgia area. So do you really think that this vote would eventually hurt the poultry industry?
I can't see any reason for it not to, because we know that everything that has been able to go to Mexico since the North American Free Trade Agreement just about has gone down there. We make cars down there now. We assemble television sets down there now. So every industry that's available just about has moved to Mexico out of the United States already, and I see no reason to think that the poultry industry and beef would be any different from these other industries, now that we've opened it up so that the public will not know that the food is coming out of Mexico. Why not grow it down there if it's cheaper to do it? And I see that's what's going to happen, and I think the poultry farmers across this district are in real trouble, and they don't even know it yet.
Let me ask you something. As traveling around, and I want to probably ask all the candidates, excuse me, today the same question, but traveling around the 9th District, 20 or 21 counties, 19, what is the total? I hate to put you on the spot, so you won't have to answer that. But 20 counties, what are the things that you heard most from the voters in those counties as you were traveling around and some of their concerns?
I could sum that up, I think, in just one word, and this is not necessarily their personal concerns, but it's a concern over the current congressman, and the word is arrogant. He apparently now comes across as very, very arrogant to his constituents, and I know we've seen that in the fact that he has refused to do several different things. After the debate that WDUN radio had here in Gainesville, his campaign people basically told WDUN that if they ever got another email from WDUN wanting them to participate in anything, that they would probably have a race to see who could delete it the quickest. And, this just shows to me a level of arrogance that's almost unbelievable in a person that is supposed to be a servant of the people. And the whole reason for it is he cannot stand to have to answer questions. What brought that on was he was asked the question, would he support Paul Ryan again with his vote? And he didn't want to answer it yes or no, and because of time elements, they had asked all of us to answer it yes or no, and two of us already had, and he was trying to ramble on like he always does, and he just got really, really angry at WDUN simply because they wanted a yes or no answer to a very simple question.
And your answer?
My answer was no, I will not support Paul Ryan. He's carrying on the same policies that John Boehner did. That's another reason that I'm running, because the district kept asking Doug Collins not to vote for Boehner, not to vote for Ryan, and Collins consistently has ignored the wishes of his district.
Well, I have to say, unconstitutional. You carry, most of the candidates do, so I don't want to single anyone out, but you carry your pocket constitution and you hold it up multiple times and discuss votes and decisions you would make. Is there at any time something that you have seen in the past several years that has been voted on that you felt is unconstitutional, but you may have had to take a look at it, or how do you look at voting as far as if you go to Congress? Well,
I think that first off, we've got to understand as a people that we did not even have a budget until 1921. And the purpose of installing the budget back then, if you'll do a little research, you'll learn that the progressives felt like if they could just set up a budgeting process, they could get anything they wanted into the budget. And once it was in the budget, it didn't make any difference whether it was constitutional or not. That's why I'm pushing so hard to go back to the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 lists 18 enumerated powers that are given to Congress, and it's only those things that Congress is allowed to do. Just to give you an example, there's a bill they've been working on up there where it will outlaw the Confederate flag in national cemeteries. And, if you remember, Boehner said from now on we're going to always have the constitutional authorization. Well, if you read what the authorization for that bill is, they list the necessary and proper clause, which is a total bastardization of the Constitution, because the necessary and proper clause refers back to laws that they can pass that relate to those 18 enumerated powers. So if there's a reason to pass it, then it should go back and state one of those basic enumerated powers first. Then the necessary and proper clause comes into being, but they don't do that. They just say the necessary and proper clause gives us the authority to do it, and that is just not the correct and the original intent of the Constitution, and that is, in a nutshell, an example of how things have gone so awry in Congress, and it's because we, the people, don't know our Constitution and understand it, that we continue to put people like Doug Collins back in office when he has shown us time and time again he will fail to honor his oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
Well, let me ask you a question. I know that the state media, the statewide media, has failed to report on this race. And when they do, they report it as though there's only two candidates in the race. Do you think a lot of the local media in the district has done a fair job, with covering all of the candidates in the race?
They probably have done a little bit better job than the other. I know the local paper in Hall County is the one that I see the most, and they do typically at least acknowledge now that there are all five candidates in the race. But I think the general, even in the articles that you see printed there, typically it's really, they read more like there's a two-man race than they are the others. And I really think that they don't see the rest of us as any kind of a threat, and I think that's what we've seen from Doug Collins too. That's why he's going after Paul Broun. But the one interesting thing about all of that is I have yet to see Doug Collins attack Paul Broun on his voting record when Paul Broun was in Congress. And that, to me, tells me an awful lot about who Doug Collins is. He's going after some stuff that may or may not be true. I have really no way to know how much involvement Paul Broun had in those other issues. But one thing I do know is I can go to Congress and I can check out his voting record, and I do know his voting record was based on the Constitution, unlike Doug Collins.
Well, Mr. Scupin, I gave you a perfect opportunity to say no one has covered this race like FetchYourNews.com. And I set you up for that answer. But no, that's okay. That's okay. It really is. That's okay. Well, look, Mr. Scupin, you have exactly 2 minutes here. I feel like one of the forums in the time that we've allotted for you this morning. So, 9th Congressional District candidate Mike Scupin, you have a little over a minute and a half. Do you have any last comments for the voters on the reason why they should choose you tomorrow?
Well, I just think that I have shown the people of this district that I have dug into the issues. I am extremely knowledgeable about what our current representative has been doing. I have never really had any great desire to go to Washington, D.C. I'm not running in this race because I want to be a congressman. I'm running in this race for one reason and one reason only, and that is I see our nation is in dire trouble, and I'm watching the congressman that's supposed to represent the third most conservative district in the United States of America sell America down the road with his voting record. And that's the only reason I'm running. That is the only reason I want to go to Washington. And I'm not going to promise that I'm going to go up there and bring home the bacon. I'm going to go up there and try to put a stop to the things that I have seen going on. And a lot of times when you take those kinds of stands, you don't fare well with leadership in Congress, and it makes it very difficult to get new laws passed or even old laws repealed. But what we've got to do is to get people up there that are willing to vote no, and we've got to have enough of them that understand we need to go back to the original intent of the Constitution all across America. Once we do that, we can really turn this nation around.
Mr. Scupin, that's all the time we have this morning. We want to thank you so much, as we tell all candidates here from FetchYourNews.com. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and we wish you well tomorrow on Election Day. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Brown, for all you've done.
You're welcome, sir. All right, that is Mr. Mike Scupin, candidate for 9th Congressional District. We are going to next up have Roger Fitzpatrick. Roger Fitzpatrick will be our next guest. So we're going to take a brief break, and as soon as we come back, Roger Fitzpatrick will be on the line with us.
Doug Collins can't defend his own record. What does he do? He tries to divert our attention from his record, and he's diverting it onto Paul Broun. He is refusing to stand up and talk to us about his record. He wants to talk to us about Windstream. Any congressman that's sitting up there is going to try to help the people with their issues with Windstream. Any congressman sitting up there is going to try to help their people when the Corps of Engineers changes the rules on pulling water out to water your grass. Any congressman will do that. But will any congressman go up there and vote against omnibus bill? Will any congressman go up there and stand for the 9th District instead of standing for Washington? Will any congressman go up there and tell Washington what the 9th District wants instead of coming back here and telling us why Washington has to have his way? I'll tell you, no, not just any congressman will. Let Doug Collins come back and sit down and get out of our hair.
This is Mike Scupin, and I approve this message.
Paid by Scupin for Congress.
Trust. Round here, we trust people who get things done. Like our state representative, David Ralston. He's cut taxes and balanced the state budget every year. And Ralston delivers. New roads, new jobs, a new university, and the toughest immigration laws in America. Those Washington guys talk big, but never deliver. Round here, we trust David Ralston. Ralston gets it done.
Doug Collins has been a bad representative for the 9th District.
How bad is it?
Doug is such a bad representative that he won't even represent himself against his challengers for the 9th District seat. Well, that's pretty easy to understand. After all, showing up to defend a record like Doug's is a pretty tall order. Since taking office, Doug has voted with the House leadership over 90% of the time. Doug voted for Boehner for Speaker twice. He voted to spy on you, to bail out Wall Street banks in advance of the next crisis, to train Islamic radicals to take down foreign governments that pose no threat. Doug voted for the Omnibus, voted to fund every Title X Planned Parenthood appropriation, and then has the nerve to try to sell you that he did not vote to fund abortion. If you want a representative who will work tirelessly to undo every wrong Doug Collins has done against the will of the 9th District, vote for Mike Scupin, a proven leader protecting the U.S. Constitution.
It's Mike Scupin, and I approve this message.
Paid by Scupin for Congress.
In 2015, our Gilmer County Probate Court heard over 1,300 criminal cases, 250 estate and guardianship matters, and probated or administered 110 plus wills. Those are very serious issues, and experience matters. We talked about the fact that every county with more than 96,000 people has a licensed attorney as their probate judge. The state requires it. They don't hear different cases. They don't hear different matters, and I don't believe that the due process you receive when you go to the probate court should be based off the county you live in. You want to have a judge who's been there, who's been on the other side of the bench, who's argued that, who knows it, and who can help you. Because compassion isn't always just about being able to listen, but it's being able to do something when you do listen. Experience matters, and I will use my experience in my private practice, in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and in 2 judges' chambers for the people of Gilmer County.
With early voting starting May the 2nd and the primary beginning on May the 24th, you'll be voting to elect leaders to several offices here in Fannin County. When it comes to the Chief Magistrate, you need someone that demonstrates honesty, integrity, and experience. Since being appointed by the Superior Court judges, I've made it my passion to uphold the same values and principles as the Honorable Judge before me. Whether it is answering the call when our community needed me or operating under budget during my term as Chief Magistrate, it's clear that throughout my 11 years of experience, I have always had Fannin County's best interests at heart. So this May, vote for the right choice. Vote for honesty, integrity, and experience. Vote to keep Sherry Walker.
Okay, we're back. I am BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. It's our candidate day, and we're talking to 9th District Congressional, U.S. Congressional candidates. And we now have on the line with us Mr. Roger Fitzpatrick. Mr. Fitzpatrick, are you there?
I am. Good morning. How are you today?
Well, I will not have as busy day as you. You probably have a full schedule today, last day of campaigning. You probably have a full schedule, and it's up to the wire. So
it is. We're going to take advantage of the time we have left and see if we can win a few more votes.
Win a few more votes. Well, let's see if you can't do that this morning. Why don't you just go right into telling people this is the second time you've run for this office. You ran for it 4 years ago, correct?
I did. I ran in 2012 in Doug Collins and Martha Zoller. Of course, Mr. Collins eventually won the race. Oh, yeah, I got back into it again because I just feel like Doug is not representing our traditional values. We're a very conservative district, and he is voting with the establishment, with the leadership, and instead of voting according to the values of this district.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, obviously the voters will tell us this tomorrow, Mr. Fitzpatrick, but as you traveled the district, and you did travel the same district, for some that don't know, the 9th, the district was redrawn back 4 years ago when Mr. Collins won the first time. So this is the second time you have traveled this district. What are some of the differences you're hearing from voters this time than last time? And do they share the reasons? Are you bumping into the voters that share the reasons why you felt you needed to get into the race?
Definitely, I'm sharing. What I'm hearing is the people are highly upset with the way that Doug Collins is voting, and they are wanting change everywhere I go. I hear people say that he is not representing our values. He's turned his back on us, and he is voting according to what is best for Doug Collins, what's best for the leadership, for the establishment, for the good old boys club in Washington, D.C., and he's not voting our values. I'm hearing that over and over and over again.
So values, voting our values is something that just resonates everywhere you've been going throughout the campaign?
Yes, it does. You know, and people want the federal government to be under control, and it's out of control right now. The federal government is reaching more and more and more into the lives of the individuals and controlling our lives. And I'll tell you what, one of the prime examples is what the President, the Department of Education, and the Department of Justice did just recently in issuing this letter saying that schools throughout this nation must accommodate transgendered students and allow them to use the restrooms and locker rooms of their identified gender. And I tell you what, the reason that the president is able to do that is because this Congress has never stood up to him and told him, you may not go any farther than this. And they have never drawn the line in the sand, and they have never stood and said, no, Mr. President, you cannot go any further than that. You are violating your oath of office. You are violating the Constitution. You are violating the duties for which you were elected. And they have given him carte blanche. Anything that he wants to do, they're just doing nothing and allowing him to do it.
Well, you know,
people are fed up with it.
They are fed up with it. I will agree with that. And it's almost like, you know, the way the Republicans in Washington, D.C. have performed. It's almost like if the president's advisors, if they would have stood up to him throughout these past several years, when his advisors walked in and he said, well, I would like to do this, they may say, I don't think you should waste your time, Mr. President. You know what you're up against down at Capitol Hill with those pesky Republicans. But doesn't seem to be anything that concerns him, does it?
No, it doesn't. But what does he have to be concerned about? Because Congress has not. The one time that the Congress stood up and we had the government shut down, the result of that was in the next election, Republicans gained seats in both the House and in the Senate. And so but other than that, they've not done anything to stand up to this president, and he has been able to issue executive order and issue letters that further and further and further transform this nation into something that is so totally unrecognizable to what the founders had envisioned for this nation. And the only reason that he is able to do that is because Congress is not doing their duty. So I firmly believe that Congress, they control the purse, they could control the money that the president, the executive branch, all of the departments, they could slow this freight train down and they could make it stop, but they are not willing to take a stand. And Doug Collins is right there with the establishment when that's happening.
Well, let me ask you a question. I don't want to bring too much fear into our listeners this morning, so we don't want to even discuss the possibility of Hillary getting elected. But let's go this direction. If elected, you would serve with a new president. There'll be a new one thing we are guaranteed is there'll be a new president of the United States if you win that you will serve with. So let's use the example that maybe it's a Republican president and they send something down to Capitol Hill. Are you going to lock step with the Republican president? And I'm going to give you an example because I have to tell you, George W. Bush was not a fiscal conservative, and maybe some Republicans should have pushed back on him a little bit, but they stayed with the party, and we ended up losing the House over that. So what say you about that possibility?
I'll tell you what I'll go lockstep in with, and that is, first of all, the Word of God, and second of all, the original intent of the Constitution. Those two things will be my guiding light in all of my decisions that I make. And if Donald Trump sends something to Congress that is against either of those two things, then I will be voting against. I'll be working against, because I think the direction that this country has been going for decades now has been toward a more totalitarian state, tyranny. And that's one of the things that the founders were just so concerned about, that we would not have a government tyranny. Because remember, they just came up with that when they fought the war for independence. And we are moving, seems like at light speed, towards this government becoming a total totalitarian, tyrannous government. And so if we have a president, regardless of who it is, that sends something to Congress that would further that agenda, I would absolutely vote against it. I don't care if he's Republican, Democrat, Socialist, whatever. There's no way that I can vote to approve anything that is going to further the control of the federal government.
Can we pay off the debt? I mean, I know, when I sent the candidates out notices, I told you I wouldn't be asking like questions, but I've heard you talk for several forums and stuff, so I know you're up on some of the conversation we're having. I mean, can we actually pay this debt off or get it headed in the right direction?
Absolutely, we can. But what it's going to take is some backbone by the people in Congress that will actually get our spending under control. We've had the top 2 years of revenue in the history of this nation, the past 2 years, and yet we have still overspent by close to $500 billion each of those 2 years. So in the last 2 years, we have overspent over $1 trillion more than what we brought in. And what it's going to have to require is that we get off the appetite of spending and spending and spending. We have got to look at everywhere that the dollars are going, and we have got to start spending wisely. We've got our spending under control. We've got to look at really what are we doing that is unconstitutional in our spending, and we've got to rein in everything. There elephant in the room is this, mandatory spending. And that's the thing that we have got to get under control, because if we don't get mandatory spending under control, yet and the national debt will consume all revenues. And so that's what we've got to really look at: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all the entitlement programs. Those are the ones that we've really got to focus on in order for us to be able to balance our budget and then start paying down our debt.
I have heard it said many times from military leaders that the national debt is the greatest threat to our security. Do you agree with that?
I am in full agreement with that, because if we don't start getting our spending under control, then the debt will absolutely consume us, and there is no way that we are going to be able to survive as a nation if we do not get our spending under control. You know, I've read these numbers before, but I'll tell you again, by 2033, if we don't get our spending under control, entitlements and interest will consume all of our revenues, and that means that we're not going to have any money left over for national defense. And then in our military right now is at the lowest level since pre-World War II.
Yes.
So we have got to make sure that we've got a strong military to defend us from the enemy's foreign. But then we've also got to work on those enemies that are domestic, because there are those that are within this country that want to destroy this nation. And I think that overspending, the way that we are doing it, is one of the methods by which they want to destroy this nation. We've got to get our spending under control and beef up our military so that we can be strong both outside and within.
Well, you know, let me ask you this: are you, as you went through the district campaigning nationally, and the 9th district is supposed to be, by all accounts, the third most conservative district in the United States. So,
yes.
Did you feel I'm going to use the word anger or upset or fed up? Did you feel the national mood that we're seeing on TV as you went through the district as the presidential primary and some of the things that are going on?
Yes, I did. I saw that, and I especially saw it at a forum that we had in Gainesville a couple of weeks ago. The question was asked of Doug Collins, and when he tried to give the answer, then he was being booed by a large portion of the audience. And we're tired of doublespeak. We're tired of just explaining, well, this is why I had to do it to placate the leadership and the establishment in Washington. And I tell you what, people are set up there enraged at the way that our government, the way that our Representative Doug Collins is stealing our future. And I have never seen it like this before. You know, it's at the national level, but I tell you what, it's here in North Georgia too, because what's going on in Washington is blatantly violating our North Georgia values, and people are crying out for a change.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, take the last minute we have here and tell the voters why you're asking for their vote and maybe why they should give it to you.
I believe that I am the best candidate for the job. I'm a retired educator, Marine. I'm a husband and a father and a grandfather, and a retired educator. I've spent my life serving in education through teaching and then in the administration. And it's time to have somebody that's going to go to Washington and fight for the Constitution, fight for North Georgia values. And I believe that I am the one that is best equipped to be able to take that fight to Washington and to win. I feel very optimistic about the future of this nation, that it's going to take somebody of my caliber to be able to go to Washington and take those values and win. So,
well,
ask for your vote, ask for your prayers, and ask for your support. Thank you.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, we thank you very much. We know you have a busy day, and as we always say, we've been talking to Roger Fitzpatrick, candidate for 9th Congressional District. As we tell all the candidates, we thank you for your willingness to serve, and we wish you well. You have a nice day, sir. I know you're busy.
Thank you, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
Great talking to you. Okay, we're going to be taking a break in just a minute. At 9 o'clock, we have talked so far to Mr. Mike Scupin, and Roger Fitzpatrick at 9 o'clock. From 9 to 9:15, we'll have Dr. Paul Broun. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here in just a second. Tell your friends that we're going to cut this if they haven't seen this. Undecided voters today, or if you want to listen and tell your friends to, if you've already decided but you want to share this with your friends. The whole idea today is we're not getting very deep into asking a lot of the candidates questions. We are letting them have this 15 minutes to ask for your vote. We want to thank our viewers every day for tuning in and supporting us as you do, but we also want to say we have to have our sponsors. We want to thank our sponsors today. Day Chevrolet, located on 515 in Jasper. Circuit World, promotional code fetchyournews.com. L&L Beanery, downtown Blue Ridge Coffee Shop. Free Wi-Fi, Salon 84, Hair and Color, West Church Street and Jasper. Make your appointment today, 706-253-9876. Clock Tower Gifts and Boutique, located in Jasper. Schottenkirk Ford, 515 South there in Jasper, right on the right-hand side if you're headed south. 515 there in Jasper. Schottenkirk Ford, go down and meet their management team today. UPS Store of East Ellijay, and One Source Business Products, located in the East Ellijay Walmart Shopping Center down there at the Hillcrest, or what's the name of that over there, Lonnie? What is that? Well, the Subway's right there. I mean, it's Walmart Shopping Center, East Ellijay, but Highland Crossings. All right. One Source Business Products. I want to thank them for making all of our graduation flyers. We put flyers on all the cars that tell all the moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, and uncles where to go and look for the 1,000 graduation photos of the night. North Georgia Diamond, located in the East Ellijay Walmart Shopping Center, promotional code fetchyournews.com. And Mattress Overstock, go see Gary, Richard, Rhonda, the mattress lady, for the best mattress at the best price. They truly want to help you sleep better. Located in the East Ellijay Walmart Shopping Center. Mention you heard this ad on Fetch Your News. That's your promotional code, 706-698-7378. Mattress Overstock, again, East Ellijay Walmart Shopping Center, and Ellijay Fitness, 379 River Street. That's Ellijay Fitness, 706-636-2348. When we come back after these messages, we're going to have Dr. Paul Broun. He will be with us, 9th Congressional candidate, and then we will be following up after that with Mr. Doug Collins, Congressman Doug Collins, and then we'll be rounding out the 9th District at 9:40 this morning with General Bernie Fontaine. So I'm your host, BKP. We'll be back after these brief messages. Lonnie, take us to break.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilbert County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Better days ahead. Truck Month is back at your new Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to $8,000 off MSRP. Right now, get a roomy new Chevy Equinox for just $23,200, or get Days max discount on a new Silverado Crew Cab, just $31,900, plus instant easy credit with Days Fast Track Credit Center. But these Truck Month savings won't last long. Get to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where Chevy cars and trucks cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Switch and save at Schottenkirk Ford. Find quality pre-owned trucks under $20,000 and not just Fords. We have all the best makes and models. Shop the best selection of certified pre-owned Fords in the area. Switch today and shop our network of over 500 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. We'll even deliver it to you. Plus, every vehicle sold comes with Schottenkirk Customer Care, which offers you extra protection for no extra charge. Make the switch to Schottenkirk Ford in Jasper. Online at SchottenkirkFordJasper.com.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East LJ. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Doug Collins can't defend his own record. What does he do? He tries to divert our attention from his record, and he's diverting it onto Paul Broun. He is refusing to stand up and talk to us about his record. He wants to talk to us about Windstream. Any congressman that's sitting up there is going to try to help the people with their issues with Windstream. Any congressman sitting up there is going to try to help their people when the Corps of Engineers changes the rules on pulling water out to water your grass. Any congressman will do that. But will any congressman go up there and vote against omnibus bill? Will any congressman go up there and stand for the 9th District instead of standing for Washington? Will any congressman go up there and tell Washington what the 9th District wants instead of coming back here and telling us why Washington has to have his way? I'll tell you, no, not just any congressman will. Let Doug Collins come back and sit down and get out of our hair.
This is Mike Scupin, and I approve this message.
Paid by Scupin for Congress.
Trust. Round here, we trust people who get things done. Like our state representative, David Ralston. He's cut taxes and balanced the state budget every year. And Ralston delivers. New roads, new jobs, a new university, and the toughest immigration laws in America. Those Washington guys talk big, but never deliver. Round here, we trust David Ralston. Ralston gets it done.
Doug Collins has been a bad representative for the 9th District.
How bad is it?
Doug is such a bad representative that he won't even represent himself against his challengers for the 9th District seat. Well, that's pretty easy to understand. After all, showing up to defend a record like Doug's is a pretty tall order. Since taking office, Doug has voted with the House leadership over 90% of the time. Doug voted for Boehner for Speaker twice. He voted to spy on you, to bail out Wall Street banks in advance of the next crisis, to train Islamic radicals to take down foreign governments that pose no threat. Doug voted for the Omnibus, voted to fund every Title X Planned Parenthood appropriation, and then has the nerve to try to sell you that he did not vote to fund abortion. If you want a representative who will work tirelessly to undo every wrong Doug Collins has done against the will of the 9th District, vote for Mike Scupin, a proven leader protecting the U.S. Constitution.
It's Mike Scupin, and I approve this message.
Paid by Scupin for Congress.
In 2015, our Gilmer County Probate Court heard over 1,300 criminal cases, 250 estate and guardianship matters, and probated or administered 110 plus wills. Those are very serious issues, and experience matters. We talked about the fact that every county with more than 96,000 people has a licensed attorney as their probate judge. The state requires it. They don't hear different cases. They don't hear different matters, and I don't believe that the due process you receive when you go to the probate court should be based off the county you live in. You want to have a judge who's been there, who's been on the other side of the bench, who's argued that, who knows it, and who can help you. Because compassion isn't always just about being able to listen, but it's being able to do something when you do listen. Experience matters, and I will use my experience in my private practice, in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and in 2 judges' chambers for the people of Gilmer County.
With early voting starting May the 2nd and the primary beginning on May the 24th, you'll be voting to elect leaders to several offices here in Fannin County. When it comes to the Chief Magistrate, you need someone that demonstrates honesty, integrity, and experience. Since being appointed by the Superior Court judges, I've made it my passion to uphold the same values and principles as the Honorable Judge before me. Whether it is answering the call when our community needed me or operating under budget during my term as Chief Magistrate, it's clear that throughout my 11 years of experience, I have always had Fannin County's best interests at heart. So this May, vote for the right choice. Vote for honesty, integrity, and experience. Vote to keep Sherry Walker.
And we're back on BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. And today is Candidate Day, and we are in the middle of speaking with 9th U.S. Congressional candidates. And our next candidate is Dr. Paul Broun. Dr. Broun, how are you today?
I'm outstanding. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And I'd ask all of our listeners, please vote for me for proven conservative constitutional leadership. That's what I did when I was a congressman before. I represented the people, not the establishment in Washington, D.C. like Doug Collins. So I would appreciate all of our listeners. Please vote Paul Broun tomorrow for your congressman, not the establishment in Washington, D.C. like Doug Collins.
Well, what I mean, how do you say that he's, represented the establishment? I mean, these are some of the things. And what I'm doing with all the candidates, just asking a couple of things I've heard you guys say on the campaign trail. So just elaborate on that a little bit.
Brian, I guess the best example of how Doug Collins does not represent the 9th Congressional District and is an establishment person, establishment congressman, is his vote for the omnibus bill last December. The people in this district did not want him to vote for that bill. In fact, that's what I hear about all over this district. That bill funds Planned Parenthood. It funds Obamacare. It funds the Syrian refugee program. It funds the president's amnesty programs. It funds Common Core. It creates another over $500 billion worth of debt. And Doug Collins, just to add something to that, Doug Collins last fall went all over the district saying he would not vote to fund Planned Parenthood. Well, that bill did. And in fact, he now denies that it did. But Franklin Graham quit the Republican Party because that bill funds Planned Parenthood. Huffington Post, in their headlines about the omnibus bill, the headline said, "Big win for Planned Parenthood." Nancy Pelosi said of Doug Collins and the Republicans who supported the bill, quote, "They really gave away the store," unquote. And they did. They gave our store away. He does not represent this district. The establishment wanted him to vote for it. He makes whiny excuses about why he did. The thing is, he should never have voted for that bill. And the people in this district didn't want him to. The people in this district did not want him to vote for John Boehner to be Speaker, but he did twice. I did not vote for John Boehner in 2013 when I was in Congress. I was one of 12 Republicans that voted for someone else. I voted for Allen West because I wanted somebody to get into Barack Obama's face and say, "Mr. President, we ain't going to do that. We're going to represent the people of this country. We're going to stop spending money that we don't have. We're going to get this country headed back in the right course." And I knew John Boehner would continue to make bad deals with Barack Obama. And so I voted for Allen West to be the Speaker in 2013 when I was in Congress. And I've represented the people. I've got 4 questions that I utilize to evaluate all legislation. The first is it right? The second, is it constitutional? The third, do we need it? The fourth, can we afford it? Now, let me put some meat on those questions. The first, is it right? We only have one standard of what's right and wrong, and that's what our Creator says. So is it biblically correct? Does it fit the Judeo-Christian biblical principles that our nation was founded upon? Is it constitutional? Number two, by that, I mean, is it constitutional according to the original intent? Is it one of the 18 enumerated powers in Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution? That's all Congress has the authority to vote on, is 18 things in Article 1, Section 8. So is it one of those? Do we need it? Can we afford it? Pretty self-explanatory. That's how I voted, and I pledge that that's exactly how I vote as your congressman. So please vote for Paul Broun to be your U.S. congressman, to replace the establishment, Doug Collins, who does nothing but pander to John Boehner and now to Paul Ryan.
Well, you know, Dr. Brown, as you traveled the 9th District, and let me remind some out there that may not be aware of this, when you were a congressman in the 10th and represented the 10th District, at that time, that was before the redistricting, and several of the counties in the new 9th you did represent, correct?
That's correct. In fact, 11 of the 20 counties were in my previous district. This is the most conservative congressional district in Georgia, the third most conservative congressional district in the whole nation. Now, Doug Collins claims to be conservative, but the best rating service today of the votes across the board, all the issues, is called Conservative Review. And people can go check me out. Go to conservativereview.com. Doug Collins has an F, 59%. He's not a conservative. And the reason he has an F is because he represents Washington, D.C., not the people here in the 9th Congressional District. So I have represented over half of the counties in this district for a year. I had people all over the district, not only in those counties I represented previously, but also in the counties that I haven't represented. People were encouraging me to come and run against Doug Collins because they knew that they knew how I voted. They saw that I had been rated truly the top conservative candidate in the whole of the U.S. House of Representatives. It's because of those 4 questions that I utilize in evaluating legislation. All 4 of those questions have to be yes for me to vote yes, and that's what I did when I was a congressman previously. That's exactly what I'll do as a congressman of the 9th Congressional District. Is it right? Is it constitutional? Do we need it? Can we afford it? If all 4 yes, I vote yes. If one's no, I vote no. The omnibus bill fails all 4 questions. I would never vote for an omnibus bill. I have not, and I will not.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you feel throughout the 20 counties, and it's a large district, a lot of traveling, and you spoke to a lot of people, do you feel your message is resonating with the voters? Are you hearing the concerns they have parallel your concerns?
Absolutely. Brian, I'm fed up with Doug Collins. I'm fed up with establishment in Washington, D.C. I'm fed up with John Boehner and now Paul Ryan. I'm fed up with big government. I'm fed up with the whole of what the establishment in the U.S. Senate with Mitch McConnell and now Paul Ryan and previously John Boehner have been doing to destroy this country and take our liberty away. I'm fed up, and that's what I'm seeing all over this district. People are fed up. That's the reason Donald Trump carried this district so strongly. We call our campaign the Fed Up Express, and I want people to come and help me to take America back from the establishment in Washington, D.C. that Doug Collins is a part of it. He's built more and more government. He's voted for bill after bill that the establishment had put forward. And let me just, not only this omnibus bill that we're talking about in December of last year, but he's voted for every omnibus bill that's come along down the pike since he's been there. Plus, he's voted to raise the debt ceiling, and when they do that, John Boehner, since when I was in Congress, in the previous Congress, John Boehner's been giving Barack Obama a blank check with no monetary cap whatsoever. It just has a time limit on it, and Doug Collins has voted for all of those as well. It's just got to stop, Brian, and the people of this district understand it's got to stop, and that's exactly what I've been fighting, and I'll go back. I have that proven conservative voting record, and people understand that I will represent their interests to get this country back on the right course that our founding fathers gave it. So my message is wherever we can get it out is going very well.
Well, let me ask you this, and I've asked the other candidates this. We do not want to put this kind of fear into our viewers or listeners. Let's just assume Donald Trump wins. We don't want to look at an alternative. But if he does, you have been in Congress up there, and you understand the toe the party line. Sometimes the party becomes very important, and they want you to toe the party line. If there's a Republican president, and by no means was George W. Bush a fiscal conservative, and a Republican president sends something down to Congress that is definitely against the voters of the 9th District's will you toe the party line, or will you stay firm with the 9th District voters?
I'm going to stay firm with the 9th District voters. I'm going to stay firm with those 4 questions. Is it biblically correct? Is it constitutional according to the original intent? Do we need it, and can we afford it? That's how I'll vote. In fact, the leadership found out very quickly when I was elected previously that they could not threaten me. They could not break my arm. They could not do anything to keep me from voting the way that I pledged to vote. And that's exactly how I will vote. Let me read you something that Madison Project wrote. And this is one of the, I'm honored so much about what they said in this. They said this, quote, many elected Republicans lay claim to a conservative voting record, and many Republican candidates promise to deliver the world to conservative primary voters. Yet few come to the ankles of Paul Broun in terms of a proven commitment to constitutional governance. It is not an exaggeration to say that Congressman Paul Broun has sustained the most conservative voting record over the longest period of time of any sitting Republican in Congress. Even the fiercest conservative fighters tend to succumb to the establishment meat grinder after a few years. Paul Broun has been inviolable. That statement came from Madison Project because of my 4 questions, because I did not toe the party line. And Brian, it is extremely important that we get good, solid, conservative, constitutional members in the House. I talked to my good friend Thomas Massey from Kentucky just probably a week and a half ago, and Thomas told me, he said, Paul, we need you up here. The fight is terrible. Please win this race. And I said, Thomas, please pray for me and help me wherever you can. I don't toe the party line. I represent the people of the district, and I will continue to represent the district. I have that proven record, and that's exactly what I'll do as the Congressman of the 9th. That's the reason that, again, I ask for all the voters who are listening to us right this minute, please go to the polls tomorrow at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and vote Paul Broun for proven constitutional leadership to fight the establishment in both parties.
How did you enjoy meeting, and I've only got like 30 seconds, how did you enjoy meeting a lot of the voters in some of the counties that were new to you? Did you enjoy that?
Well, I did. Really, they weren't new to me because I'm a trout fisherman. The mountain area of Georgia is my backyard, so I just met a lot of new people that I didn't know previously, but I knew people in virtually every county in the district. So none of these counties and the issues of those counties are not new to me. But yes, I'm a people person. My God-given talent is serving. That's the reason I went into medicine. And now I'm going to serve people in the 9th Congressional District as their congressman. Please vote for Paul Broun to be your congressman for proven constitutional leadership to fight the establishment in Washington. I'm fed up with Doug Collins and the establishment. We've got to make a change. I'm working to save America, to take America back from the establishment in Washington. So please vote Paul Broun the U.S. Congress.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. We know you have a busy day of campaigning. Tomorrow's Election Day. And as we tell all the candidates, we thank you for your willingness to serve, and we wish you well. And we'll probably be in touch real soon. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, now that's Dr. Paul Brown. Next, we're going to move to Congressman Doug Collins. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Congressman Doug Collins, and he'll be on the show. He will have 15 minutes, and then after that, we'll be talking with General Bernie Fontaine. So this is our candidate day, so please tell all your friends, undecided voters, to tune in, or we will have this on our website later. Lonnie, take us to break.
Better days ahead.
Truck Month is back at your new Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to $8,000 off MSRP. Right now, get a roomy new Chevy Equinox for just $23,200, or get Days max discount on a new Silverado Crew Cab, just $31,900, plus instant easy credit with Days Fast Track Credit Center. But these Truck Month savings won't last long. Get to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where Chevy cars and trucks cost less.
Better days ahead. Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
El Rey and Elijah.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Elijah.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Elijah. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Only Pizza Hut delivers 2 medium pizzas any way you want for just $6.99 each. Get any 2 freshly made pizzas with high quality, fresh ingredients and sauce made with California vine ripened tomatoes. Now get your favorite specialty recipes like meat lovers, backyard barbecue chicken, or 5-pepper pepperoni. So you never have to compromise with any quality toppings, any crust, any specialty. Anything you want on any 2 medium pizzas, just $6.99 each. Only at Pizza Hut.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in Elijah next to Walmart.
And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in Elijah next to Walmart.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Switch and save at Shattenkirk Ford. Find quality pre-owned trucks under $20,000 and not just Fords. We have all the best makes and models. Shop the best selection of certified pre-owned Fords in the area. Switch today and shop our network of over 500 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. We'll even deliver it to you. Plus, every vehicle sold comes with Shattenkirk Customer Care, which offers you extra protection for no extra charge. Make the switch to Shattenkirk Ford in Jasper. Online at ShattenkirkFordJasper.com.
And we're back. I'm BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. And we are having Candidate Day, and we're still speaking with 9th District Congressional candidates, U.S. candidates, and we now have on the line with us the current Congressman, Doug Collins. Congressman Collins, how are you today?
Well, I'm doing good, Brian. I'm excited about tomorrow. We've had a great campaign season. It's been good, but I'm also a little sad this morning. And a good friend, a good supporter of ours, and a great guy who really just was a great patriot up in Fannin County, John Mullinex, passed away. And we found out this morning. And so it just puts it in perspective. Campaigns and elections are great things, and I enjoy so much being the congressman from the 9th District and representing folks. But when you do this a long time, you get to know and have relationships. And John was a good man, and he'll be sorely missed. And I just so it's a day of excitement and sadness all at the same time.
Well, Congressman, I opened the show with that. We called John our outside technical rep. He never missed the show. He tuned in every morning at 7. He sent me comments for 3 solid hours on everything I said, and then he let Lonnie know when our volume was low, when it needed to be higher. I mean, he did it.
That's John.
Yeah, John was our outside tech rep, so we are saddened by that news also of the passing of our dear friend, John Mullinex. Congressman, it's been a couple months. You've been crisscrossing the 20 counties. And what's your takeaway as you head into Election Day tomorrow of the feeling of the voters in the 9th District?
Well, I think the takeaway is something we've been talking about, Brian, for longer than this campaign season. And I think that's a frustration with this administration, a frustration with the things that many times are going on. And we're seeing it, in many ways. But we're also understanding, and one of the things that has been great about a campaign is being able to share truth and being able to share, here's what's going on, here's what's actually happened, here's why some things can happen, here's why some things don't happen. And I think that people are responding to that, and as they have, and we have always been, very open. We've logged a ton of miles with a lot of phone calls, and it's not just election season for us. It's something we do, and we promise from day one. So what we're seeing is people want, especially the 9th District, a very Republican district, is just a direction that looks at a brighter future. And I think that's what we've been talking about. That's what we've been seeing. Frustrations are there. We've acknowledged that. In fact, I've said many times, that I'm more frustrated than they are because I have to deal with it. Couldn't have been more evident last week when I was in the House of Representatives and the Democrats tried to push through a lesbian gay initiative that was contradictory to our religious freedoms. It was a Religious Liberty Foundation on the amendment in the Milcon and VA bill, and I was in the chair during that time, and the vote stayed open, and enough votes we got where we defeated it, but I was being, yelled at and shamed, and so when you stand in the way, you're used to getting yelled at, you're used to getting those things, but I'll stand for the values of North Georgia every day, and that's what I've done, and people are responding to that.
Well, I did see you in the chair. I watched it. As you well know, yep. I have no other life, so I watched it, and I seen, was it Steny Hoyer was yelling at you?
Oh, buddy, yeah, Steny and Nancy Pelosi. I mean, because what we did is the vote. We knew that we had some work to do on the vote, and the vote ended, and like many times, we left the vote open, and I was in the chair, and the vote was open because it was basically standing for values, and this is North Georgia values we're talking about, and working within the rules. There's nothing out of it. We just simply said, this is, something we stood for. But yeah, they were having a little bit of a meltdown, is best to say it. So, but I'll stand for those values any day of the week.
Well, just let Steny Hoyer keep yelling. So
Yeah, I sort of take great pride. It's about like the earlier this year we were talking about a Bible that was removed from a VA table, a missing in action table, prisoner of war table, and we commented on. Of course, we're one of the forefronts of religious liberties in the Congress, and people come to us. So we were asked about it, and we said this is Mickey Weinstein, who is a atheist who is always fighting the military and fighting others. And I commented on it, and I sort of take a great pride in this, that I have an atheist who's going all over the country saying that Doug Collins, because I stand for North Georgia values and religious freedom, this was his words, that I was nothing better than dog feces. I'll take that. That's a badge of honor. If I'm standing for religious liberties and values of North Georgia, and that's what an atheist from around the country wants to call me, I'll take that as a badge of honor.
Well, let me ask you a question. It seems as I travel the district with a lot of the candidates, and I listen to several of the voters. The debt in this country, and I think there was a time before social media to where we just did not know exactly, I guess, how bad things were or what a multi-trillion-dollar debt and what we faced. But now with information, do you not see that the voters are very concerned and say, hey, we have to be fiscally conservative and something has to happen now?
Oh, I don't disagree with you, Brian. But I think the other thing is, though, is you also have to see where we were, frankly, before I came and then since I came into Congress. Who is at one end of that constitutional triad between the Congress and the Senate, the House, the Senate, and the President, and realize that just a little over 5 years ago, and this is the two things we've got to talk about, though, the deficit and the debt. And many times people get those mixed up. The yearly deficit, you've got to cut to a balanced budget. Otherwise, you can never get to the debt. And in 2010, 2011, we had a $1.4 trillion deficit, which we've cut 66% of, down to about $400 billion. Still not balanced. I want a balanced budget, but that is making progress so that our debt load is not growing as quickly. The other thing is we've got to look at the major drivers of this. And that's one of the things it's always great in a campaign, but frustrating in a campaign. And that is, some candidates will give you bumper sticker answers. They'll say, well, if you just eliminated X, X, and X, you'll balance, but no, you won't. And I'm all for getting rid of EPA. I'm all for cutting back and getting rid of the Department of Ed and these other agencies. But at the same point, if you could do all the discretionary spending, you're not still going to balance. You've got to get, and this is why I'm hopeful in the next Congress to lead in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the entitlement issues that we have, and also looking at a tax reform plan that actually puts a fair tax in place in which we can have business growth. Growth is the ultimate solving of our debt issue. We've got to get our economy back. This president doesn't understand that.
Well, let me ask you something, because and I do know you stay in touch in several different ways with the district, not just in election season. But let me say this. One of the things that you're a representative. You represent your district. So in the last couple months traveling, what are maybe one or two of the things that you've heard in your district from voters that have pulled you aside, that you've gone back and said, hey, I've got to let you people know up here in Washington, my district is upset with this, or my district says this has to change. Is there any certain things you picked up while campaigning that you had to take back up there?
Nothing that I had not already taken up there, I think, Brian. And I mean that in all sincerity, because a lot of these issues have been going on for 4 years. I mean, whether it be our spending, whether it be the defense. That's one thing, our defense issues, our national security issues, our issues of governmental regulation, growth. We've been on the forefront of fighting that with the EPA, with Waters of the USA, with many other things. But also some of the things that go off the radar. And I know some of the folks who run against me think that they're just parts of the job. But as as you look at it, things like the Corps of Engineers, Windstream, looking at our community pharmacists, looking at orphan counties, the things that matter to the 9th District. We get more calls on a lot of those things because they hit people every day, right where they are. We have businesses who can't, we have a company taking federal money that's not providing what they said on broadband, and we have companies losing business because of that. They want a congressman who fights on all issues, and that's what we've been doing. And those are the kind of things that we've been taking. We've been taking the message of, getting us back to a regular order on appropriations processes and getting away from these big spending bills, doing things that matter. Those are the kind of things we've been advocating, since I got there. And that's the things that were reiterated over this campaign, and will continue to be as long as far as I'm concerned, will be as long as we are there and until they're solved.
Well, let me, I've asked all the candidates this one question today, Congressman Collins. Again, I'm going to reiterate, to be redundant with our viewers, I don't want to put the fear into them that there's any other option but a Republican president. Okay, I don't want to scare them too badly. Okay, but I for one will say George W. Bush was not a fiscal conservative. He was not, and we could see that. So if the next president comes in as a Republican, I mean, are you willing to push back if they send something down to Capitol Hill that's not fiscally conservative? Or what about, Supreme Court justices and so on serving with a Republican president and maybe having to push back?
Look, I've always said this, and Brian, this goes back to when you and I first met. And I've proven this time and time again, and, some people agree or disagree, but when leadership I feel is right for my district, for our state, for our country, I vote with them. When they're wrong, I'll vote against them. I've done that consistently over my time in not only the state house but in the Congress. And what I would hope for is a Republican president, and I was asked this question, and it's Donald Trump is our nominee, and so I was asked, do you think Donald Trump will find support in the Congress to move forward? I said, if Donald Trump comes to Washington and he wants to deal with our broken tax system, if he wants to deal with our broken immigration system, if he wants to deal with our regulatory environment, that he would have direct control over. That's something people forget. We're so furious with the Obama administration for using the regulatory agencies. He would be in control of those regulatory agencies, and without, rescinding, their directives, could bring them in partnership with us. If he wants to do that, if he wants to get spending under control, increase our business productivity, increase our output and our defense in the world, then that is something he will find plenty of help with. If he wants to come in, and as unfortunately he's talked about, and wants to off the bat raise taxes or do stuff like that, it's going to be very difficult, and he will find a lot of folks in Congress that will push back no matter what party affiliation they are. And I think that's the concern. And we've got a big choice coming up, Brian. This was something that's not talked about a lot, even in our campaign. But we've got to deal with our defense issues, which is the primary focus of our country, as our Constitution is defending America. And we've got to look at ways that we do that fiscally responsible, but also making sure that we're not continuing to chip away at our readiness. And that hasn't been a large conversation, but needs to be, because we're in a world right now where people around the world look to us, and we're in a world in which something that happens in the Middle East could happen in downtown Atlanta the next day, and we've got to be aware of that.
Congressman, that all too well, you are correct there. We have to discuss our preparedness, our military, and we have seen that we're at the lowest levels in I don't know how long, but the numbers are pretty staggering how long it's been since we've been at these low levels. So
it has sequester actually, look, for some discretionary spending, it didn't do what it wanted, but from the military perspective, the sequester issue is something we're going to have to deal with. But we're also going to have to be honest with people and the American people. Here's how we move funds. Here's how we pay for this, and we do so in a prudent way, moving that, but also making sure that we have not only manpower levels but readiness levels that can, do the things that the world needs to see, and our administration needs to take into account.
Well, Congressman, I will say this, it would be refreshing to have a State of the Union address. It's been 8 years to have a State of the Union address and actually have the correct side of the aisle stand up and cheer at the appropriate times.
You better believe that. I would look forward to that. I've sat through I think 3 or 4 of these now, and they get progressively depressing. Because they're just used as this. This past year was. It reminded me, and I said this before. It was just like, here was a guy at a sort of his college favorite coffee house talking about these ethereal things that had no hope in reality of actually happening, and expecting the American people to expect to see that as leadership. And you're sitting there listening to it. I tell you, one of the privileges of serving the people of the Ninth, and I want to continue to serve them as I have, was sitting there when the president of the Ukraine came and looking at the problems and and looking at how he was fighting for his country, literally fighting for his country's sovereignty, and doing that and seeing that passion and saying, that is a man that is leading, and seeing Benjamin Netanyahu come and speak of clarity and vision of the Middle East and the problems of our greatest ally Israel and the problems in the Middle East, and speaking with that clarion voice from that same place that President Obama has spoken, but yet doing so in a way that nobody mistook what he was saying for leadership and guidance. That's what this world is hungering for, is people who will just be straightforward, say, here's our problems. They are many, but we can overcome if we're persevering. And I think that's the thing that we've got to have in an administration and a presidential race, why this is so important.
You have a quick final comment, because we're out of time. You have a quick final comment?
Finally, I just appreciate the opportunity to serve. I look forward to. I've enjoyed running again for this next term. I encourage everyone to get out. We're looking forward to a great day tomorrow. Please go vote. If you have any questions, please go to our CollinsLeads.com. Look us up. We would love to earn your vote during this election cycle, and we just appreciate everything y'all do.
Well, as we always say, we thank you for your willingness to serve, and we wish you well, Congressman. And I know you have a busy day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, take care. Thanks a lot.
Okay, well, we're going to talk to the Congressman tomorrow, because we're looking forward to tomorrow night. I should have said that. That's Congressman Doug Collins, we may be setting up over at his headquarters as election results come in, to see if we can get a first response after tomorrow night's results from Congressman Doug Collins. Now, next on our roster is General Bernie Fontaine. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll have General Bernie Fontaine with us. So, Lonnie, take us to break.
Doug Collins can't defend his own record. What does he do? He tries to divert our attention from his record, and he's diverting it onto Paul Broun. He is refusing to stand up and talk to us about his record. He wants to talk to us about Windstream. Any congressman that's sitting up there is going to try to help the people with their issues with Windstream. Any congressman sitting up there is going to try to help their people when the Corps of Engineers changes the rules on pulling water out to water your grass. Any congressman will do that. But will any congressman go up there and vote against omnibus bill? Will any congressman go up there and stand for the 9th District instead of standing for Washington? Will any congressman go up there and tell Washington what the 9th District wants instead of coming back here and telling us why Washington has to have its way? I'll tell you, no, not just any congressman will. Let Doug Collins come back and sit down and get out of our hair.
This is Mike Scupin, and I approve this message.
Paid by Scupin for Congress.
Trust. Round here, we trust people who get things done. Like our state representative, David Ralston. He's cut taxes and balanced the state budget every year. And Ralston delivers. New roads, new jobs, a new university, and the toughest immigration laws in America. Those Washington guys talk big, but never deliver. Round here, we trust David Ralston. Ralston gets it done.
Doug Collins has been a bad representative for the 9th District.
How bad is it?
Doug is such a bad representative that he won't even represent himself against his challengers for the 9th District seat. Well, that's pretty easy to understand. After all, showing up to defend a record like Doug's is a pretty tall order. Since taking office, Doug has voted with the House leadership over 90% of the time. Doug voted for Boehner for Speaker twice. He voted to spy on you, to bail out Wall Street banks in advance of the next crisis, to train Islamic radicals to take down foreign governments that pose no threat. Doug voted for the Omnibus, voted to fund every Title X Planned Parenthood appropriation, and then has the nerve to try to sell you that he did not vote to fund abortion. If you want a representative who will work tirelessly to undo every wrong Doug Collins has done against the will of the 9th District, vote for Mike Scupin, a proven leader protecting the U.S. Constitution.
It's Mike Scupin, and I approve this message.
Paid by Scupin for Congress.
In 2015, our Gilmer County Probate Court heard over 1,300 criminal cases, 250 estate and guardianship matters, and probated or administered 110 plus wills. Those are very serious issues, and experience matters. We talked about the fact that every county with more than 96,000 people has a licensed attorney as their probate judge. The state requires it. They don't hear different cases. They don't hear different matters. And I don't believe that the due process you receive when you go to the probate court should be based off the county you live in. You want to have a judge who's been there, who's been on the other side of the bench, who's argued that, who knows it, and who can help you. Because compassion isn't always just about being able to listen, but it's being able to do something when you do listen. Experience matters, and I will use my experience in my private practice, in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and in 2 judges' chambers for the people of Gilmer County.
With early voting starting May the 2nd and the primary beginning on May the 24th, you'll be voting to elect leaders to several offices here in Fannin County. When it comes to the Chief Magistrate, you need someone that demonstrates honesty, integrity, and experience. Since being appointed by the Superior Court judges, I've made it my passion to uphold the same values and principles as the Honorable Judge before me. Whether it is answering the call when our community needed me, or operating under budget during my term as Chief Magistrate, it's clear that throughout my 11 years of experience, I have always had Fannin County's best interests at heart. So this May, vote for the right choice. Vote for honesty, integrity, and experience. Vote to keep Sherry Walker.
Okay, and we're back. I'm BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. And next, our final candidate for the 9th Congressional District we've been talking to this morning on Candidate Day is General Bernie Fontaine. General, how are you today?
I'm doing fine over here in Suches.
Suches?
Yes, sir.
Well, I have to tell you, I just say it nicely and don't take it wrong, but, out there campaigning in 20 counties, I heard if you moved into Suches, you couldn't find your way out.
Not by accident either.
Not by accident, right? You decided to run for Congress, running for the 9th District. You've been out there visiting the 20 counties and campaign in general. What is the basis of your campaign been, and what have you been sharing with the voters in the district?
Well, the first question that's asked of me usually is, why are you doing this? Especially by, my competition. The answer to that is, pretty obvious. The problems that the country has. We beat them to death over the last couple of months. But it goes beyond that. It is a very serious question, and we're at a point where if we don't do something drastic now, we may not be able to fix the situation. And based on that, I feel a moral obligation to, and this is tough for me to bring out, but I owe an obligation to those people I was with that didn't make it. So that they didn't die for nothing to see our country go the way it is. It's kind of personal with me, and I've been around a long time. I know how to do things, and I really feel that I can do some good up there, and that's the only reason I'm running, because I would much rather be in Suches than in Washington.
So you have shared that, and I've seen you several times, and you just don't want that to be in vain. And you don't want that to happen, and you want to make sure that that people that died serving this country, that you remember. And are you doing it for the veterans? Are you what exactly? How do you feel about that?
Well, I am doing it for the veterans. I'm doing it for those that were not allowed the opportunity to become veterans. And, you know, why I was spared, I don't know. God works in some mysterious ways. I tell people, look, he sent us Donald Trump to wake everybody up. No, that's not mysterious. I don't know what is. But to get back to the VA, yes, that is an area that really needs some work, and I do know something about the VA because, you know, I use the Veterans Administration, and they need a lot of work, and they don't need micromanagement by Congress. They need some drastic action taken to get rid of the federal employees master contract that allows the people there to act any way they want, and they need to get rid of the administrators at the top. That leaves the medical staff, which usually is pretty darn good.
General Fontaine, now what are some of the number one things? Now you have, when you're a candidate, you have the reasons you entered the race, but as you travel the district, what are some of the number one things that you heard throughout the district that voters shared with you of their concerns?
The main feedback I get from people initially, especially, is that you know, they are so tired of politicians and rhetoric and meaningless statistics and nothing getting done. They are frustrated, and they feel like it's a breath of fresh air to have some what I call citizen candidates running, myself and two others here, because we tell it like it is, and we look for, you know, some real-world solutions to the problems. We're not interested in a career. We're not interested in the perks. We're interested in getting the job done and getting out of there.
When you say citizen candidates, I mean, do you think that's resonating throughout the country to have candidates that are not currently incumbents or politicians? Do you think that's resonating throughout the country?
Oh yes, I certainly do. I'm glad you brought that up because I do believe it's a national movement, and I think it's important that it is because one district alone can't make it happen. Along that same line, it's very interesting to watch career candidates tap dancing all around why term limits are not needed. Term limits, the people feel term limits are needed, and one of the big reasons that they are needed that they don't realize is that the career politician gets in there and stays in there using PAC money, big PAC money that furnishes all the signs, all the glossy junk mail, all the robocalls. It's very difficult to get them out once they're in, and they feel that they would have some control with term limits.
So you believe in term limits?
Yes, I do. You know, the alternate answer is, the voters can vote them out at the end of 2 years. But as I mentioned, it's about impossible for the average person. It's nice that we have citizen candidates, but the three of us are putting our money where our mouth is, and to put it a different way that people will understand is that we're putting a lot of miles on the old car, and the money we spent on this, we could have bought a nice new car.
Well, you know, that being said, what do you think is the appropriate limit of terms, the number of terms a congressman should be able to serve?
Well, you know, that's open to discussion, and there's pros and cons. I would think, you know, 2 terms, no more than 3 max, 2 terms as a senator. The problem with a single 2-year term would be that the bureaucrats would end up having way too much control. Unfortunately, a lot of people will go up there and they'll listen to the bureaucracy. I, for one, never listen to the bureaucracy. I tell them that they work for us, and by gosh, they better listen, because here's the way it's going to be. You know, they need to take that approach. They're there as servants, not as masters, to tell us what we're going to do and to implement the regulations that they keep putting out.
Well, you know, considering we're on the subject, and you and I, let's not forget, we're gonna get together real soon, and we're gonna sit and talk about a lot of these issues. And I'm looking forward to you and I spending about 30, 40 minutes together one day. discussing some of these things. But maybe the founding fathers didn't anticipate, campaign finance issues that we see today. But why do you think the Constitution or the founding fathers didn't deal with term limits?
I think that the original mindset of all of them was that, that they are doing their civic duty. They come in, do their civic duty, and then leave, as did all of the founding fathers. They didn't stick around. George Washington could have gone another term. All he had to do was say so. The rest of them the same way. And so they didn't anticipate. It's hard to anticipate what's going on. Now, I have to say this, that in 1951, we did put term limits on the president. Why they didn't put it on the other two branches? Well, I can only surmise that they liked it where they were and they wanted to stay. But I felt that all three branches need term limits. Certainly the Supreme Court does.
As you traveled across the district, some of the reasons that you got into the race, why do you think 4 candidates are opposing the current congressman? What would be some of the things that you would say are the reasons that people have gotten a race, or some things that the congressman has done or not done in the 9th District that you felt you needed to get in the race?
Well, it's what has not been done. Basically, it's hard to talk about what's not been done because there's so much that needs to be done, and there are 2 politicians in this thing right now, and one of them, does everything that the establishment wants done, and that accusation's been kicked around a lot, and the other one votes no a lot. The thing is that neither one have ever had the type of job where they get things done, Brian. You've been there. You know what I'm talking about. You go in, you figure out what needs to be done, and you do it. And the background of the 2 politicians is such that they've not done that. The other 2 guys have been out in the real world and done things also. I feel that my strength is in the things that, you say Collins was talking about leadership earlier. Well, none of them have put together as much leadership training or experience as I have. None of them have managed multi-million-dollar budgets and made them come in under and save taxpayer money. None of them have the education in government that I have. So for those reasons, and I'm not trying to build myself up because I really don't care about that. I'm beyond that. I just want to go in there and do what I can and train a new person and then get out and maybe have a little bit of retirement before I get too old.
Well, let me ask you this final question. I've asked the other candidates if you go up there, possibilities you may have a Republican president. I, for one, don't feel George W. Bush was a fiscal conservative as a Republican. So if you have a Republican president and you get the job to go up there, if he brings down something that's not good for the 9th District or sends something to Congress that's not fiscally conservative or constitutional, will you be able to push back, or will you, succumb to the Republican Party lines?
Succum's an interesting word. No, I would push back, but in pushing back, you just don't say no. What you do is you have an alternate. This is not what we need, but here's what we really need. And yes, we need to work with a conservative president and one that knows how to get the job done. I have never been impressed with Bush the elder or Bush the younger. They are not as bad as what the Democrats can come up with, but I felt that ever since Reagan left, we've really not had a real president in the Republican Party. We've had some real mediocres, and I'm looking forward to having somebody that's been there, done that, and knows how to get things done.
Well, General Fontaine, we got just a little less than a minute, and we appreciate you being on with us, but do you have any final words for the voters and comments that you'd like to make before we close?
Well, like I said, I think that the voters need to look at this movement nationwide of citizen candidates because it's where the motive is, and then you need to look at the relevant qualifications. So, the short version of all that, and I like to keep it short and succinct, is, hey, don't complain, vote Fontaine.
Thank you there. We'll end with that, General. We tell all the candidates we want to thank you for your willingness to serve, and we wish you well tomorrow on Election Day. And General Fontaine, thank you very much. You have a nice day, sir, and for being on with us.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it.
All right, we've been on with General Fontaine. Now, that wraps up our 9th Congressional District candidates. Now, if you are wanting information or you want to share that information with friends that are maybe undecided, we will have that up on FetcherNews.com under the Election 2016 button. The Election 2016 button, we will have that up later today. It will just be called 9th District, and you could share that with everybody that maybe is an undecided voter. And undecided voter, again, that wraps up our 9th Congressional District. After we come back from this break, we will start into the 51st, the Georgia State Senate 51st District. Lonnie, take us to break.